All right, so we are live. Good evening, Attorney Isat Buchanan. How do you pronounce it? Isat or Isat?
I hear this every time. My mother says Isat, my father says Isat. So I work with anyone. It's been years of not resolving it. It's unresolved. But what I would have done was Isat as the attorney and Isat as the artist. And anyway, I answer to my name. So.
Oh my gosh. Okay, we are gonna go into that this evening because I read up on you earlier, and you were in fact an artist or are an artist.
That's
right?
correct.
So let's take it from boyhood. Let's take it from boyhood.
Wow. I don't know what to say, but how do I go back that far? But I mean,
let me ask. You were born in what city?
St. Andrew, Kingston. Well, St. Andrew, Jamaica.
Okay, and so you grew up there. You went to primary school and high school, prep school.
I went to, and there was a private school called Priory.
Yes.
Then Stella Maris. So my most important years was at Stella Maris.
Okay.
Very significant because a lot happened at that Catholic school, and in terms of. There was a man called Mr. Abrahams. He would be the father of a famous doctor now, Dr. Michael Abrahams.
Oh, yes.
So I can tell you this. Everything that man educated. So anything after that would have just been extra. So when we went to Mr. Abrahams coupled with Stella Maris, by the time I went to high school, I was already educated.
Oh my God, that's a huge honor. Oh my gosh!
All credit to Mr. Abrahams. He had an extra lesson program, and we had common entrance. We don't have that what they're doing now, but when you went to Mr. Abrahams and you learned math and English and mental ability, that was the core foundation for education, and everything that came after that. You just could, process.
You laid the foundation. That's great. So when did you pick up music?
So my father is big youth. He has always been the reggae artist, but for me, it was just daddy. So,
right?
Yeah, it's just daddy. So everybody making this big thing about this man, and I'm like, all right, daddy, So he would spoil me and my brothers and my sisters, and he was just daddy. So it wasn't anything special about the music. But we had our sound system, my brother and myself and our friends in the neighborhood. We had a sound system. So we would get dub plates from Buju and, all kind of people. So that was the extent of the music. Sometime as a teenager, I was in a rap group called Thug Hype with my brothers and sisters. Listen, man, I was sure it's gonna be some big rapper, but so the music came later on, 17, 18, 19, thereabout.
Okay.
So I did record a song with a rap song, and this is the first time I'm going to work with my dad.
Yes.
We recorded the song, and so
brethren, so
that song never came to fruition, and it was to be mixed, and life was supposed to I'm supposed to transition my rites of passage into the music. But of course, if anybody knows my story, I had other engagements in the United States hotel called the BOP. You
want to tell us a little bit more? Well, before we go, I want persons to know, why you are, who you are, and how you are. So if you don't mind, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to repeat who you are first. He is the son of Hit the Road, Jack. Wanna come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Okay, that's big youth, son of big youth. All right, and so you ventured into the United States. What happened? Talk to me.
Oh, I tell this story a million times, so it's like I don't like to repeat.
All right. But No,
the significant part of it is that as a juvenile,
Yes.
and you know, people watching this, they've been very critical about this stuff. But
Right.
I was a juvenile, a teenager, when I was given what I thought was money to take to the United States. Of course, got stopped at the airport in Jamaica. Hours later, they said it was drugs, and I
You got into trouble.
yeah, I got into trouble, but
Right.
I like to talk about that because
Okay. All
I
right.
get into trouble, and I the minute it tapped me, I said, well, if this is the situation, this is the person who gave it to me, this is where they live. I was what you would have called, I was you couldn't get no stitcher than how I was stitching, because I told on who, what, where, when, everything.
Okay.
And of course, the investigative powers in this jurisdiction, and it doesn't change. It's a little bit different. So they never went any further. I went to trial as a juvenile, and that person never was made to face
Oh.
trial or anything. And they found me guilty as a juvenile, and I got sentenced to a fine and 21 days at hard labor, whatever that meant.
Yeah.
And yeah, thereafter, you know, the fine was paid, and I was like, okay, found myself at, I decided I needed to be a pastor. So
A pastor.
my mother is a minister of religion, so
Okay.
people laugh. But so listen, my entire, oh my God, my family is an interesting family.
Okay.
It's a family made for YouTube. I'm just an iota of the genius and incredible, amazing people that are on this earth. I'm the least among the greatness in my family. I must say that. I'm the grandson of James Samuel Portius. Many people don't know him, but he was a pioneer in terms of what the JUTC bus system in Jamaica is. Mr. Portius was the bus man at the time, when you know anything. And so my grandmother, she was a bishop, my father's mother, and my mother, she's a minister of religion. So I said, you know, God must have wanted something out of my life to change something. So I found myself at the United Theological College. My mother was very happy for that. And here I'm going into these classes, and yes, I'm finding about God and this and that. And then after I did Christology and Old Testament interpretation, New Testament interpretation, I was like, hold up, but Jesus is a gangster. Him not into no church building, and him had 12 disciples, and if this was modern day Jamaica, our minister Horace Chang would lock him up. Yeah, he would certainly be on the cross in Jamaica, but they would lock him up, charge him for anti-gang legislation, they would prosecute him, and he'd still be on the cross.
So you came to that realization while you're doing the interpretations?
Yes. When you read about the life of Jesus, what he stood for, this is Jesus walk up in the church and turn over, right at the altar and turn over and said, you're committing blasphemy in my Father's house. And church is where the people are, it's not the building. And he was anti everything the church was. My understanding of reading about the Jesus.
Oh my gosh. That's a great.
I could not, in finding that I was having great trouble with keeping with the narrative. And I went to the dean at the university, and I explained what I'm saying to you. And he says, you know something? You sound like a philosopher. Go and do philosophy.
Okay.
And I said, okay, philosophy. Sound like a thing. I did it, you know, mother not too happy about that, but I switch. So the very next semester, I'm studying philosophy, and I know, listen, I find my way, I find myself. And I'm doing the philosophy, and I would have said this a million times. That is when I discovered that I was bright. It came natural. I'm always challenging the narrative, the norms. I'm like Socrates. I'm a gadfly. I'm appeared to be a troublemaker. But if
I
it don't
love
feel
it.
right, I am going to speak up. I'm going to challenge it. And so that became remnants of ISAT. And
Oh my God!
yeah.
I love Socrates. I mean, I love philosophy. I mean, okay,
Yes.
but and not about me.
Yes.
And so I'm feeling you. So I'm feeling who you are now,
Yes.
right? That Socrates challenged the norm. He challenged the status quo, and he says we should not live like this. We should be challenging ourselves, our own existence,
right.
and examining who we are and stuff. And I see that coming. We're gonna get to it. We're gonna get to that.
We're gonna get to it, but I appreciate that. Socrates is the beginning. Plato's cave. Yes. Anybody, you don't have to love philosophy to go and look at Plato's cave and understand that enlightenment is something that when human beings lack it, the norms will keep you enslaved. Because if shadows on a cave, if it's all you know, you won't appreciate reality.
Oh my God.
That was the thing for philosophy for me. And I was on a path to finding myself, which is what the University of the West Indies did for me. Allow me to find myself, and I was doing that. But 3 years later, from the time when I got in trouble as a juvenile, I am going away in the same month, on the same weekend, and I'm now I land in the United States, and I'm told that I'm responsible for the contents of another gentleman's bag.
What? Oh my God.
And that was, so I'm being detained for that. And then what became a detention became, oh, you're a kingpin, and oh, you were in trouble before, and oh, we have unknown persons, and it went like that. And before I knew it, I'm in a trial, and there's a police officer from Jamaica who he got a green card to speak about the juvenile conviction because it was sealed in Jamaica. They couldn't get the information, so he testified and put it in evidence. Then they used 404B, which is other crime evidence, which can't be used in Jamaica. And they said, well, this guy did it before, so if you find that he did it before, it's likely that he has the knowledge to do it. And I was convicted, and the guy was sent home. So that is what happened. So you'll see on the internet that I was some 2-time drug mule or whatever. Not the case. However, I was sentenced to 10 years, and I did get the 404B enhancement. So without the enhancements, I would have done much less time, but they doubled the time and gave me leadership enhancements and all kind of stuff, organizer and leader. And so it went up, and then I got a mandatory minimum sentence, which happily was changed by Obama eventually.
How did you become an attorney?
How? Oh, good. Oh, so this is, I'm glad that's a beautiful question. Because there are people who is like, oh no, the Jamaican system is so horrible. How did they make this 2-time dirty convict become an attorney? That is so disgusting. Jamaica is so backward.
I'm not saying that. I'm just curious.
So no people in the internet. That's not how it works. The authority for me to become an attorney, majority of it came from the United States. I declared my conviction to the General Legal Counsel. I proved to them my journey to rehabilitation, and good character is a standard that in every profession you ought to meet. The law says good character is as of today. So the convictions at the time when I went to the GLC was 21 years ago. I'm a 43-year-old man as I'm speaking to you now, and these convictions are way in my past. But not only that, I use the case law, and the case law says convictions don't bar you. In fact, there are many attorneys in the United States, professors. Judge Mattis was a convict who became a judge. It is not, I didn't do anything extraordinary or new to the law profession. The good character, I will say, and I will submit, more than anybody, I've been tried and tested. You know who I am. And I can tell you this, if a pin drop, I will pick it up and declare it, because I would never want my hands in handcuffs or anything. I cannot be bought, and my integrity will never be in question. So this will be recorded, quote me on it. And that is the beauty of the opportunity that 17 members of the GLC, they weren't common citizens of this country. They were extraordinary minds given with a judgmental eye, and they gave me a chance that I do not take lightly. And it is not just that they gave me a chance, the society gave me a chance, my professors, teachers, judges, other lawyers, students, people who spoke up for me every day that I practice law. I owe them that. And it's not just me. So I'm not a self-glorified lawyer. I'm somebody with humility and understanding that everything I do, the people who gave me a chance, I will not disappoint them. That's
did you study while you were incarcerated?
I certainly, my entire study was at the University of the West Indies when I came out of prison. What I did was, I was doing philosophy. When I went into the Bureau of Prisons, I had a law library and everything at my disposal. I was teaching in the education department, and I was using the law library. I had access. I started to read the law books. I was more read than the average inmates. I would start to help inmates with their cases, and I would be successful in getting some persons out of jail, but couldn't get myself out for whatever reason. And so, yeah, that was my reality. But I had an experience with the law. I mean, I was locked up for 10 years, 9 years, almost 10. Some months short of being 10. And I wasn't in there wasting it. I learned to play the guitar. I came out as a personal trainer. I did courses, but not law courses. But I was trained and I did the practical. Everything I'm doing now by myself, I was doing as a prison lawyer, but now I'm now certified, but my certification certainly came outside of the Bureau of Prisons.
Okay, well, so this is really great information, right?
Yeah.
Because this sets up who you are today, because I remember back, I think it was 2017, I was reading an article about you, that the bar in Jamaica was giving you a hassle, trying not to get you your license or something like that. How did that go?
So the bar never gave me a hassle. There were attorneys at the bar that were disappointed that I was let into the bar. Okay. But at the time when that, I now call it scumpy media reporting. That's what happens in the local space. They put out things for sensationalism. Because I was called to the bar at a private calling, and a reporter, I don't know, he came because what's this thing about this private calling when there was a whole batch called the day before? What was so special about this calling? It's simple. I had a hearing which came after the approval of my batchmates. And so I went and I begged to get a date. And as fate would have it, the date of my calling was on my birthday. And it was a private calling. And the sensationalism came from the way it was reported. I was already an attorney. I was called, and that's when people found out that, you know, this guy is now an attorney. So there was some talk about people opposing.
Yes.
And I did make mention that I heard about it and I left it at that. How it is reported and how people are behaving, it is beyond me. And my response to that always is rehabilitation was always the reason why why judges send you to prison for and incarcerate you for long periods. There's some hope that there will be rehabilitation. So why, when you pay your debt to society, and the debt I'm speaking about is if a court adjudicates you guilty, it's never about innocent or guilty. No. It's about the decision of the court. After you have exhausted your appeals and you have the conviction, you must now make amends. So I don't cry over spilled milk. I'm way beyond that. And I ensured that I did all that is necessary. And I understood that what God had for me was to put me into a life of service, which is what I do every day. When people call me and say, Isat, can you do this? I don't say no. As long as it is within my capacity, I will do it.
Well, you know, the one thing I hear coming out is your studies, your passion about how people can, because I'm looking at a lot of cases that I went over today to try to look at some of the cases that you've been involved with, and I said to myself, these are somewhat similar in form. It says Jamaica, where is it? Jamaica High Court rules on can ban dreadlocks. Yes. I think it was that 2018 issue that came up to court last year.
Right.
You remember that?
Right.
Tell me about that. I mean, if you can tell us a little bit about that.
I can speak about it briefly, but understand that case is before the Court of Appeal. Our submissions have been filed and we have that hearing in November.
Oh, okay.
What I will say is that case was an extraordinary one, I will say, because in 2018, here you have a young girl who her entire family wears dreadlocks.
Right.
They have a peculiar religion, and they took the Nazarite vow. The father is a musician. He deals with the Rastafarian teachings, and he does his research, and he says the Nazarene vow, as it is in the Bible, will suffice. They take Nazarene vow. She never cuts her hair. She has real dreadlocks. And the school says, oh, you can't wear the cut, mama. There's a tape too. The principal.
Right. Yes.
Principal sounding like a big skettle. She's no longer the principal, so I can say. I hope she hears it. A big uptown buto.
Yes.
Mama, you can't wear that here, you can't wear the locks. It have to come out. That's how she's talking on the tape and saying, in my experience, lice and junjo. The Rasta people have lice and junjo, and in my 30 years of experience, it has to, the locks has to come off. So she says this, and as I said, my God, when I hear it, I'm offended because I'm saying lice and junjo, that's your excuse. So the mother says, but where is the rule? Oh, we don't want it, and that's it. Fast forward, we take the matter, we write to the Attorney General and everything, and they said, we're defending it. So I get an injunction at the last minute, at the hearing, we get an injunction, and the Attorney General says, well, the school objects, but the Attorney General's chambers is the lawyers for both the Ministry of Education and the school. So the compromise from the Ministry of Education was, we will consent to the injunction, but the school objected. So the child now gets to go to the school for a year until the case is heard. When we get to the case, 3 days before the trial, the Director of State Proceedings write to ask, what is the Nazarene vow? So we answer and tell them what it is, And then some big affidavit come. Had we known what the Nazarene vow was, we would have allowed her and we would give an exemption. And I'm like, even then, an exemption, all of a sudden they offer exemptions to Rastafarian. This is a school that in their rule book, they said, we used to be known as the Rasta School or the Dunce School, and we are no longer that. It's in their yearbook. And fast forward to 2020, the decision comes out very late, months later, and it's drafted and it says, I don't know the law, I misinterpret the law, the child has no rights, the father has no standing. We have to protect the public from lice and jonjo. So there it goes. And yeah, so I stood there and I had to hear that. I have the Rasta on my head and I hear that. And my response is, it's a sad day for Rastafarians, Afrocentric people, Black people.
Okay.
This was done. I heard this a day before Emancipation Day.
So here's the norm that you spoke about.
Yes.
That must be challenged, right? The norm, 1963, dreadlocks, hair cut off in a Montego Bay, Coral Gardens, right?
Right.
18, lice and jonjo, right?
Right.
2021 in Zinga, cut off.
Right. I'm the lawyer. I'm her lawyer, and I must tell you this.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you must know. What they did was horrific. They robbed her. We have gone from saying we don't want you around to coming and saying, let me scalp you. Let me take your head off. And then her classmates are saying, we hear she cut it off because she has, what you think, lice and jonjo. 19 years, you're a Rastafari, and your friends, our classmates are now saying, it's not the police cut it. You cut it. You tell us you cut it because you saw fungus growing in your hair. So this kind of discriminatory thing that's going on in Jamaica in 2021 is the same thing. 1960, 1962, 1963 Coral Gardens, and here we are in 2021, and it's the same treatment meted out against Rastafarian. Not saying it is the government that do it, it's persons with a particular belief. Rogue, because I refuse to believe that the JCF, as it is constituted, the members would want to have that mentality.
So you don't think it's a normal thought among a lot of people? That reason why you would respond the way that they do, that they did this, isn't it a norm among a certain sect?
No, it is no. Listen, let me tell you. You see how you say a certain sect? Let me tell you something.
I don't understand why.
So I'm gonna respond to this.
Yeah.
Listen.
The reason why I say that, is that I don't understand it up in the 1963, and the whole country understood that this was wrong. Then it happened again in 2018, and everybody knows that it's wrong.
All right. So it's not you have some real backward kunumuno people who don't love themselves. No, it's true. Who, if you read the book Animal Farm, you will understand. You want to be something you are incapable of being and something that you're not. You have persons who born and raised in the ghetto, get a little education, and because they need to perform a part of the elite class, they have to abuse the very place they come from to feel like they're not from there. I don't suffer from that because, yes, my father was a ghetto man, but I've never experienced the ghetto. He transcended that. To transcend the ghetto, it is a generational transcendence.
Yes.
So the man who is a ghetto man right now, he has to come out of the ghetto and raise his kids. So his kids are not from the ghetto, but he will forever be from the ghetto. That is the reality. So own your truth. And when you do it, you will have humility and you will have respect. But I can always tell you this, that there are people who don't have self-hate, who don't have chips on their shoulders or who don't have suffer from identity crisis, they would never do that. And so when it time come for a power struggle, I have to be careful with my words here. But it's only his jealousy goes a far way, you know. Because when you say a rasta, whether male or female, and the ability to grow your hair, and it's like lions in the jungle. It's beautiful in another way. This is the blackness, you know. So what we see every day is the norm is Eurocentric beauty. Black girls with you saw the athletes. Somebody made a joke about it, but Shellyan is running in all of them stand at the podium and them have the wig, the Brazilian hair and them color it and all of that. That's nice and thing. But could you imagine if these three girls who became 1, 2, and 3 had the Rastafarian hair and expressed the black identity? Yeah. This is something that is important, you know. And so it's always the people who then can't grow them hair, or them ugly, or them fat, or them just something wrong with them, that them have problems with people being themselves. Notice I said these things because fat people gonna say, I'm discriminated against me because I'm fat. That's what I was thinking. I don't, but I'm saying it that when you start to put labels on people, and people who have problems, because there are things that you can fix and things you can't. A part of fixing self is accepting self. So no matter who you are, like I hear people always, even I do it sometimes, make fun of Andrew Holness and his big nose. My nose big too, but for some strange reason, I hear big nose people saying him nose big like, and I laugh because that in and of itself is also a trademark of blackness, of greatness. And if nothing else, you can smell when trouble is coming. So for me, I'm like, you know, when the Prime Minister comes to the podium and say, I lock him down for an hour, maybe him smell COVID at 8 o'clock, locking us down at 7 o'clock. So using this to say that you have to be yourself. The beautiful thing about it is that, and I'm speaking about him, I'm not being disrespectful, I'm making that clear, is that when you look at this Prime Minister, and I'm saying this genuinely, is somebody that accepts himself, loves himself, and he didn't show up 8 years later with a nose job. And he has the ability and the capacity, but he didn't do it. He has access, right? So I'm using that to say we accept ourselves the way we are, and we have to get there with the Rasta identity. And so as I'm talking to you, Nzinga happened, and the week never finished, and officers in St. Anne, they got two brothers, didn't know they were university students, and pepper sprayed them and manhandled them, said they were in breach of curfew, and we'll see how that goes. But it is now feeling like a trend, a worrying trend in terms of how the Rasta identity is being dealt with.
And that's exactly where I'm going with that. So we were talking about how does then their rights as human, what does the law say with cutting off the person's dreadlocks? I just want to put it out. Or what does the law say?
The Constitution says that you must not infringe, abridge, or violate the person's human rights. So the government, police officers, the executive, the prime minister, the judges, the prosecutors, they're government workers. The Constitution, they get their power from the Constitution. Their offices arise from the Constitution. They are creatures of the Constitution. That word is so significant because notice it says a creature. We know what a creature is.
Yes.
Not a human.
Yes.
So the creatures are inferior to the humans and must give effect to the human rights. So you don't get to violate it unless it is demonstrably justifiable in a free and democratic society. There is no justification on the law for doing what they did to Nzinga. There's no justification on the law for doing what they do with the way how human rights are violated in Jamaica.
So where are you coming from though? Because why hasn't there been lawyers doing what you're doing in the past? Is there a fear of persecution? Is there a fear that some lawyers will not take on these as cases? What's
you don't know, because when you take on these cases, it's these cases aren't money-making cases, contrary to what people think. These cases don't pay the bills tomorrow. If somebody thought that there was some payday, I used my money to take the original Rasta case, the dreadlocks case, to the court. I funded that case with my personal money. There was no assistance from anywhere. And when the family had put a GoFundMe account and they were slaughtered in the media, said they were looking money and people want money, and the internet was unkind to them. But notwithstanding, it is not human rights law. Is not an area where it is heavily
because you are treading on grounds that we have never seen before.
And I'm happy, because I must also say this, because the lawyers before me would have had to deal with a constitution that was not friendly. The constitution that I'm talking about now was an amendment in 2011. This amendment came when I just went to law school. So the lawyers before me didn't get the opportunity to be taught by, I always say her name, maybe she don't speak to me because I'm always putting her name in the public. Tracy Robinson is a constitutional juggernaut. She is the Caribbean's contribution to what human rights is. Every student under the learned Tracy Robinson has a different appreciation for human rights, for all, not selective human rights. So when I'm talking, I always speak about a fear of the trampling of rights, not just for Rastafarians, for all. And when I say all, I will be in a courthouse if anybody comes to me and say my rights was violated. It doesn't matter who you are. So anybody that even feels that their rights is violated, that's how I was taught. I have an appreciation and compassion for any minority group, anybody who is a human being and their rights are being trampled on.
Because I remember two cases recently that you took on. One was with a guy who was in prison for 50 years.
Yes.
And then there were a couple of guys who were picked up on the street under ZOSO.
State of emergency. Yes.
And first of all, how does one sit in prison for 50 years without being processed out? I mean, and they weren't in there for that. Am I saying that?
No, you're not saying it wrong, because as I'm talking to you now, I can tell you this in a matter of capacity. I only got out one. I didn't do anything extraordinary. There are still people there who need to get out, and they have not done anything, and they're languishing in prison, and technicalities within the law keeps them there. So I want to make this clear. It was not myself, the DPP, who probably doesn't like me. She does her job and she does it well, and she contributed to ensure that he was out. She expressed her concerns, and she is using the Constitution as a creature of the Constitution, and she assisted. But there are persons still in prison now for 20 years, 30 years, extended periods who can't come out because this is a minority group that is mentally ill. They don't have capacity. Their families are probably all dead, or their families don't know what to do. They don't reach out, we can't find them, and they're just languishing in prison. And our current government thinks that mentally ill is not as important. So I'm saying this because from getting out George Williams, you would think that there would have been attention paid to these persons and more persons would have been out, rather than putting the burden on me to go and use my resources or get assistance from NGOs to get these other persons out. I'm only one human being. And so I'm sad about that.
Because that's an example. What you did would be an example of they need to say, oh my God, this is happening.
It wasn't, to be honest with you, it wasn't received that way. It was received that I'm a troublemaker. I love the media. I fighting against the government, which is what is being said now about the Nzinga. I was assassinated in the media for the state of emergency case. How dare you take on the government? And
tell us about that. Tell us about that case. Take it from scratch. What happened with it? Yes.
So from 2018, I've been writing letters to the Minister of National Security when persons were being detained, and there were sections of it where they were persons who weren't authorized were detaining people beyond 30 days, and 30 days became a year, and the state of emergency ended, and then they brought it back, and they would just pick up the same people again. So having been locked up for a year when the first state of emergency, you're released, and then when they start it back, they come for you, and they had this
pick you up back again?
Yeah, and have you there for the whole 18 months, some of them 12, and it was just horrible. I was so exhausted because I kept going, and I can tell you this. There was a place at Tambrin Farm where I would go there, and 78 persons, I'd have 78 of them released, and I would have to go and write up these forms, and I was going over there every night, and I was tired, and I said something else has to be done. There was another attorney, John Clark, who is the brainchild also behind this. I can tell you, we said, but it can't work. And it just was something, we looked at it, and the law in of itself said that this was unconstitutional. We said it to them. They had a tribunal. Oh Lord, behave yourself, Isat. There was a tribunal that was appointed by the minister with all persons who are affiliated with the government, and you go before them and you say, listen, you can't have these people locked up. There's no evidence. And then you go through this long trial, like a long trial, and then they come back, deliberate, and say, oh, the guy must stay. And prolong, he just stays there. If the state of emergency was going to go for 99 years, he would just stay there because he's a violence contributor. That wasn't flying, especially when judges gave some of these guys bail, or it was a criminal matter before the court, and they were misusing their power and misusing the state of emergency. And we challenged it. When we brought the matter to the court, things were said, and it became apparent and clear as day that the judge would have indicated that the state of emergency was unconstitutional and the men were to be released. I'm very excited about that because I've been saying it. I go and they say, according to the law, I am to wait until the judge delivers his judgment. So I was accused of misleading the public and lying to the public, and there were headlines and people saying I'm a liar and I'm a wicked and not no go so. And then they Prime Minister comes and says, I'm calling the election and ending the state of emergency. And he wins his election. And then we get a call, come for the judgment. And everything I said is written. Yeah, and the state of emergency is unconstitutional and obey the government can call state of emergency because of Isat and John Clark. Yeah, anyway, I say it like that because they want to call it and can't call it. And we are waiting. They said they're appealing it. What I know of the law, yeah, waste of taxpayers' money. The law is quite clear because in the name of the Queen in all her whiteness and the Privy Council, the final court of appeal would have sent out judgments and precedent as to how a habeas corpus works and whether it can be appealed or not. So waiting to see where that is. But I'm speaking about that because when the judgment came out, no media house, nobody said, well, we were too hard on these young attorneys and the one that we said was misleading the public. And still today, when you go on the internet, you hear people saying, oh, him lose case and him this and him that. And I've discovered that I'm the only attorney in Jamaica that lose cases. Everybody else fought. Right? So it's rough being a human rights attorney, but it is something that I do because I know what it is to have your rights violated. I know what it is to not get the help, and I will always help. That's just what I do.
What is it that drives you like this? Well, do you think it has to do with your philosophy training, the two cases that you had against you, the time in jail? What drives you to here?
You're the first person that ever asked me that. Wow. Let me try to answer that.
Yeah.
You know, I went to America, and for the first time in my life, I understood. For the first time at my trial, I discovered that persons weren't looking. There was no individuality. So growing up in Jamaica, let's not get it twisted. Your individuality shines through in Jamaica. Whether he's a dirty bungle, whether he's an uptown, whether he's a runner, whether he's an artist, you can find individuality. I come to America, brought before the court, and I just realized for the first time that the jury could not see anything other than a nigger. Being Black in America is a different reality. The training of the Afro-American mind is so different. And I know because sitting in prison for 10 years, the Afro-Americans have a certain strength for Afro-Caribbeans, but when the white man walks in the room, is a different thing. And I learned for 10 years how significant that was. And it won't happen in my lifetime. I'm only attempting to bridge a gap that I don't even know if it's bridgeable, but I have to do my part. The beauty of it is that I also lecture. I'm an adjunct lecturer at the university. So all the lawyers that are coming out year after year, they have experienced some hours with ISAT and the importance of giving back and the importance of understanding understanding Blackness, understanding identity. And that is why I do what I do. So the people I help, they don't even need to appreciate it. It's something bigger. And have I seen change? Thank God, yes, I have. And that is why I will continue to do it. But it started with that, learning that not that I'm a Black man, but that in certain spaces I'm seen as a nigger. I haven't imprinted that on myself, but just the thought that I could be something inhumane is awakening.
You got a chance to be on two sides. You got a chance to be a person who went through the system as an incarcerated, and you have a chance to be the representative or the person who represents, right?
Right.
How did it feel going through the system as a person who was suspected of doing something wrong did you feel like a human being going through that from being suspected all the way to being incarcerated? Did you feel like a human being at all, or was that taken away? Right.
The first time I felt human again was when I walked into the University of the West Indies at the Faculty of Law to do law. And I was taught by Tracy Robinson, who made me feel like a human being. I could cry to tell you that a woman who doesn't even know me from anywhere gave me my humanity back. Dr. Matthews from Antigua, who is Harvard trained, Oxford trained, comes to Jamaica, is teaching me criminal law. And when she says, Mr. Buchanan, what do you think? I say, oh, me? And she said, Mr. Buchanan. She called me this two-time dirty convict boy, the people, them law class. She said, Mr. Buchanan. The University of the West Indies gave me back my humanity. I'm happy to say that. And I am just a replica of the greatness. And when I say I'm educated, people think I'm showing off. No, if they know the opportunity that my country, this great country, Jamaica, gave me, and what my Black people in this country gave me, they would understand. So believe me, I'm a humble lawyer. I serve. I don't feel like I am the elite class and you are the inferior people who don't know the law. No, I'm here to serve you because that's how they taught me at the university. And they gave me back my humanity. So when I was, as I said, my identity was taken from me, I felt what the slave experience was like. Because rather than going through the middle passage, when you're incarcerated, you go on the white plane and you're chained, you're shackled from your hands and your feet. If that plane crashes, you won't be swimming to or holding because you're shackled. I felt what it is to be a slave. I was housed like a slave. I was everything. And that is the better side of it. What they do here in Jamaica, when I speak about it and the nasty prisons that they have. You hear the word I'm using? And the filth and where are you going to get rehabilitation in Jamaica? How are these guys going to be human beings? And so when I go to the prisons and I talk to them and let them know that they have greatness in them and they can be a lawyer. We have people in Jamaica that saying, how dare you be a lawyer? How dare you want to put your life together? The Costas of Kingston said to me, but you would have people think that they can be somebody in this society. I will not have it. I applied to be a JP, got approved. The Queen said yes, the Governor General signed it. And the Costas held my stamp and said, I can't do that because other persons will think that it's okay. And I laugh. I'm an attorney at law, and he took that stance. So lo and behold, when I heard that the Honorable Reverend Al Miller, 2 times convicted, the same government gave him OD, and you have a problem for you, JB, to sign documents that I can sign as an attorney. I said, Lord, there's what I don't know if a donkey said the world on a level, but I'm happy that the government would give Al Miller, because he has a church and he influences so much people, and what they do is only hold on to the convictions. And you are so much more than that. And that is my life's work. And when I'm gone, I hope people will understand that everything I do, I mean well.
All right, so I'm going to share an experience with you, and I'm going to follow up with I went to a police station seeking help.
Right.
I was in the island, just a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And when I went in, there was a policeman and a policewoman, and I was not wearing my mask. And I went in because I needed information, because it was getting close it was late night, and it was getting close to curfew time, and we never know what to do. I'm going to have my hotel later. Huh? So I went in and I said, can you help me? That was a word. Those were the exact words I used. And the man said, where your master, boss? Me say, oh, I didn't realize I didn't have it on. And I said, oh, but you're not wearing yours. Back up. Back up, and like you want to go pull him gun,
Yes.
So I turned away from him and turned to the lady, right? And the lady answered my question. But I was far away from her. I wasn't within 6 feet of any one of them. I was far away. And she answered my question. And while she was answering my question, right, the man was putting on his mask, right?
Right.
All right. Question. At that moment, I felt uneducated. At that moment, I felt uninformed. At that moment, I felt I was at the control of this man's voice. And I wonder all the time what is the norm in Jamaica about how people know the law? Do we know the law? Can we use the law as to protect ourselves in Jamaica? And do they know enough about the law so that when a police walks into your presence and they are executing what they are executing, what happens?
So well, you just want to get me in trouble, don't you? Here's the thing. It doesn't matter whether you know the law or not.
All right.
What is a reality? And it's not the fault of the members of the JCF. They don't know the law. Not all of them. The training is subpar. They're doing the best that they can. But even if you know the law and they don't know it, how is that going to help you?
Right.
And if you embarrass them and you said, listen, you don't know enough about the law. Even if I say, listen, I'm a lawyer, you're not, I know the law, they're going to say, oh, you think you are a liar, you know what go up in the truck, boy. Probably give me 2 thump and 2 kick. And what I can do after that is seek redress. But you can't win. And it's not something, it's not only in Jamaica, in America. Look what happened to George Floyd. You can't win, you will die.
Yes.
And it's not that, and sometimes they have their biases, and when he's gonna tell you back up, that's he's exerting power with ignorance. Yes. He has detained you, he has incarcerated you, he has dehumanized you. Yes. He doesn't have to talk to you like that. You understand? And if they understood when I said protect and serve, and understand that they are the creatures of the Constitution and they are there for you. So when you go in and you say, I'm lost, can you help me? The response is, sir, why aren't you wearing your mask? What happened? Do you not have a mask? Are you lost? Are you here? Yes. What's happening? Did somebody rob you? Let me make inquiries. But that only happened on TV. So be prepared. And once I'm going to defend the people, the ghetto people, they are abused, and they too, some of them aren't educated. So, you know, the language barriers is also going to be a thing, because you're going to have some youth that going to say, yo, you know, a thing gone a while ago, I want some assistance, and I'm going to say, back up, back up. And the guy gonna say, that's why I never want to come here, because I don't trust the police, and he might tell him too bad word, and then before you do it, you resist arrest, blah, blah, something innocent. And it's that a man called the police because he says his baby mother was misbehaving, and in that exchange, she was shot. And his response is, I wish me never did call the police. Don't get me wrong, you know, she did have knife and all kinds of things. But I'm just saying that type of escalation is because of training or the lack thereof. It's because of not understanding that even the most irrational citizen, the police can give deference to. But also on the other side is you can't win against the people who are wielding power. So if the police is going to say, "Walk me your phone," I'm not going to open my phone because I have my right to privacy. Well, I'm not going to carry you to jail. Well, go ahead, because the Attorney General will be getting documents from me. And that's the extent of the education that I have to the public. Take your abuse, live through it so we can get aggravated damages and exemplary damages, and send a strong message to the director of state proceedings when they see multiple claims and they have to pay it out.
Yes.
That's how you make a change. I'm not for let's start a revolution. Those days are gone. We don't need to lose any lives for stupidity and umpis kumpi kunumuno. I have to be using these words because that's what it feels like. You know?
Yes. Yeah. Well, I must tell you this. This has been wonderful. I see how your youth wrapped up into your life and your work. Your entire youth is wrapped up. And I really, you know, I've talked to you several times, but it's, you know, on a one-off basis and stuff. I really wanted to hear you, and I heard you loud and clear, and I know that a lot of people are going to hear you tonight, and because this is going to go right around. I hope me not get no trouble. I hope you not get me no trouble, you know, sir.
No. I know that I'm measured, but all I want people to understand is this, especially because I know you're speaking to the diaspora.
Yeah, man.
The Constitution is the law of this land. It is the done of all dons. Yes. It is where we get our humanity from. Humanity is lost in Jamaica because Jamaica has two Jamaicas running at one time, and we need to get to one. If we respect the least among us and give them humanity, remember that one thing I said earlier, when Dr. Matthew says, "Mr. Buchanan, what do you have to say?" Yes. If you see the ghetto man and you call him Mr. Thomas, you probably don't even know Thomas is his last name because he named G Speng and Skilly Beng, and him though even you call him by government. So I have a client that I'm not going to tell you what him street name is, but his name is Javion, and I'm like, Javion, you're not no bad man. Like, Javion, that is so decent and churchy. You know, anytime I think him hard, I say, Javion. It's so funny because our parents, no matter where we're from, they have the best visions, the grandest expectations of us. Yes. And we as citizens, we have to imprint that on all of us. And I'll end there.
I thank you so much, Isat. and I'm sure I'll see you again in one of our shows soon. All right, thank you so much, my friend.
Yes, man. Thanks for having me.
Respect
and respect to your listeners and